Welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to make a simple and easy to use tapering jig. I'm working on a new project where I'm going to have to make a whole bunch of tapered parts like this, so I'm going to be removing this piece here. And so I thought, since I'm making a whole ton of them, I should make a tapering jig. Now I was looking at a bunch of different designs, and a lot of them seem to be just basically a board that is the right size to be able to fit the piece on there, and it fits between the fence and the blade. And basically you just attach your piece with like some toggle clamps or something. You hold it down securely, and then just pass the piece over, and the blade cuts off the excess. I stumbled across one design that I thought was a little bit safer, where you actually put a dado. So I made a dado in this piece, and then you have another piece which you clamp to the fence that guides this part and keeps it down securely. I mean, if you just have the blade loose, or the board loose, it could potentially ride up on the blade and get off track, get thrown back at you or something. But this seems like it would be much more secure. So this is the basic structure of the jig. Now I just need to add some stuff on here that's actually going to hold down my piece that I'm working on. Setting up this jig is actually pretty easy. First thing you gotta do is put the jig between the fence and the blade. So raise up the blade quite a bit, so it's easy to register this against the blade there. Add this guide that you're gonna clamp to the fence. And then I like to raise up the guide just a tiny bit so it's not touching, like just this bottom part is touching on the sides of this dado rather than rubbing against the bottom of it. Reduces the friction a little bit, makes it a little bit easier to push. And then probably the trickiest part is getting the fence aligned. It's only tricky on, probably only really tricky on my table saw, because my table saw is so narrow that clamping the fence on is almost at the edge here. So I got to be a little bit careful when I'm tightening it down. And you just want to make sure that it slides pretty easy. This is probably a little bit too close to the blade because you can see that it's turning the blade. There we go. That looks pretty good. The thing about making the tapers is you probably don't want it to be, the taper to be cut super precisely on here. Like, you're not going to make this your final cut. Chances are you're going to want to use a hand plane or something to get down to the final taper. This is going to get you pretty darn close. And for me, for the pieces I'm working on right now, it really doesn't matter. But if you're making like the leg of a chair or something like that, you want to get pretty close with this, and then pull out your hand plane or even like some sanding blocks and take it down the rest of the way. So now I need to clamp in my piece. So I just slip it under that piece there. This bolted piece is going to hold it down. These pieces are going to hold it in the correct position. I just push them tight against that and then tighten it up. If you wanted, you could also use some sort of knob to do this. I put a knob here so you can just tighten that down by hand, but my bolt wasn't quite long enough that I had in my stock of spare bolts and stuff, so I'm just using the wrench and that works fine too. Doesn't take much extra time. Then just turn the table saw on and here we go. I made a whole bunch of these pieces that I'm using for another project. I'm actually going to be building a lumber rack with these. And as you can see, it makes it really easy to make parts that are basically exactly the same. So this is something that if I had a bandsaw, I could have cut all these by hand. But using this jig, probably each individual part only takes me like, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute to cut a taper on. So I think it speeds things up and leaves less room for error. I really like using jigs because they make repetitive tasks really easy to do, and you're going to get pretty much the exact same result every single time. If you have any questions about making this tapering jig, let me know in the comments below. Click that subscribe button to get notified when the next video comes out, and thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.